This week on Rockstar Superhero. I really dug my chat today with Omar Al-Hinai of UK melodic hardcore act We Struck Gold. Omar shared his life story with our listeners today, and I found him remarkable. There's a gift so rare inside of him, and it's not hidden. It's there for all to see, to hear, and to find compelling. Omar is well-spoken, easy to listen to, and an absolutely delightful young man. Many should follow his lead. If anything, the name of the band, We Struck Gold, sums up the humans in this collective. There's something so pure here. This is my conversation with a man of integrity, vision, and mind-blowing kindness. This is Omar, this is We Struck Gold, and this is Rockstar Superhero. Truth be told, man, We Struck Gold is a fantastic band.
Thank you.
Yeah, your work is vastly melodic. You know, I'm an ex drummer, if you will, but it's heavier than I expected with that beautiful name, right? And funny how that works.
Well, yeah, that is quite a funny one because you pointed out basically two of the main things behind the band, which is like sort of melodies and. I guess our name is sort of promoting our positive side.
Yeah.
Is through everything, through the darkness, through the heaviness, through the sort of emotion. There's always that sort of positive outlook on things. So we feel like that's sort of represented through our name.
Yeah, it's perfect, man. Well, what I want to do, I want to get to the material. I mean, I want to talk about the band. I want to talk about the single. I want to talk about the future. But in the beginning, if it's cool, Omar, I'd like to talk about you a bit. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Awesome. So simply, what drove you towards music? Do you come from a family of artists? Give me a little background.
I've always grown up around music, and my dad was heavily into jazz, classical.
Sweet.
My mom into basically everything. So I was introduced to music through an early age. My parents are both not musicians, though.
Okay.
And my mom is probably the worst singer. So
Is she still alive?
Yeah, she is.
Okay. So do not let her hear this.
Well, actually, I did write an essay about it in school once. How bad it is.
All right.
To do with human rights, and listening to her singing on the way to school was a violation of my human rights, in my opinion. So. That was quite entertaining. I digress. But yeah, so I was introduced to music from an early age, learning piano, very classical though. So it's more, I guess, in my early teens when I got introduced to sort of heavy music. And it was when I went to sort of my first show, and I just saw the energy and the vibe and the community that this sort of music brought. So
yeah.
That just sort of drove me into it head first.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how culturally diverse. Okay, I get it. We're famous in America for being a melting pot. That's kind of where the term came from, right? When the States happened 245, 50 years ago, it was like everybody's welcome. But the truth is not everybody's welcome. I mean, we both know this, right? This is the way politics have lied to us and told us. But, Europe, man, and UK seems to be like the real melting pot, that there's more allowance for anybody from anywhere to do something amazing. And maybe I'm wrong because I don't live there. But the name Omar is not a British name, clearly. So tell me about your family history and how your family history and that family culture played into who you are, because that's got to be a huge element.
Massive part. So I actually grew up the first half of my life in the Middle East, in a country called Oman.
Oh, okay.
So there it's very, the culture is just massively different to here in the UK. So having that sort of upbringing, and it's very family orientated. I am a Muslim, so I had sort of Islamic upbringing, as well as the whole culture that they have there is, it's very much respect your elders. And I don't know, the country is, it's quite unique, and it's so welcoming and so warming. So I guess I just sort of held my values, and then coming to the UK, when you're almost like in Oman in this protective bubble of just, I guess, family and happiness and just being kept safe. And then you come to the UK where everything's a bit more raw and gritty. And I mean, it was a massive culture shock.
Really?
I had to get sort of streetwise really quick. It's not talking down the UK, because it's just a completely different, just a huge difference from sort of Middle East and my sort of upbringing. But
right.
So I guess I had to sort of wisen up, smarten up, toughen up, just get ready for that. UK, and mainly it's weather, actually.
Wow. Yeah, I would think it would be hard on all fronts, right? Especially if Oman is like you say it is. I've never been there. I've never been to anywhere really in the Middle East, and from a distance, especially in America, of course, because of all the political stuff that happens, is there's this very false belief. And I want to emphasize false belief that that part of the world is only dangerous, only crazy, right? Just, they don't believe in what we believe in, or they don't share the same cultural leanings, or they don't listen to the same type of music, or they look different, and I don't want to throw America or Western culture under the bus, but it's amazing how much we profess to be people of the people. And we're anything but, right? and so for me, as an outsider, I look at Oman on a map. I know right where it's at, and I say, well, if it's anything like Yemen, it must be bad. And of course, I know Yemen isn't all bad either. There's bad people everywhere. This is not about the country. It's not about the culture, but you know what I mean? And so when you say I grew up and it was lovely and I felt safe and it was special, that actually perplexes me, because I have no concept of how wonderful that must be. And I long for something I can't have.
Well, I would never, and this is the thing, I don't expect people to have any other sort of different view, because that's all they're sort of, not necessarily taught, but that's all you sort of witness in the news and all the atrocities that are happening in the Middle East and all the violence. But so what I'm trying to say is I don't blame anyone for their views or their opinions, or because that's just what we're fed, and that's all we see. If you're actually together, just one thing I'd like to point out is Oman is actually rated 0% for terrorism on the CIA website.
I know. I know. I'm just saying that it's just simply put, and pardon me, all listeners. I know you're literally rolling your eyes or you're pissed off right now, but I'm just trying to make the old fat white guy point that when we look on a map, we go, ooh, bad, right? Because I don't do that. I know you don't know me, but I don't do that. But people look at that and they go, that whole big circle, if you were to go right to the middle of Saudi Arabia and then draw, a 2,000 kilometer circle, you would say these are all bad people, except for Israel, right? Somehow Israel gets a pass. It's crazy.
Nowhere in the world is perfect, but I guess all it takes is sometimes just doing a bit more research, digging a bit deeper, even visiting the sort of places. Because from my experience, Oman is totally different to the rest of the GCC. That's the countries around there. So Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Saudi Arabia. In my opinion, it's a lot more natural. It's a sort of place where you can just go into the middle of nowhere, come across a village, and all the locals will welcome you in, give you tea, coffee, dates, and
I love it.
They'd love to just show you the country because it's such a sort of friendly, hospitable place. They love Westerners, absolutely love them. They'll do anything to just sort of make their trip as happy as it can be.
Nice. We need a more you know thing right now. Da, 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 da. Oman.
Brilliant.
Come and visit, you know.
Yeah, no, it was a great place to grow up, and I cherished the memories I had and the values I learned from the country. So I'm very grateful and very fortunate to have experienced it.
Yeah. The one I don't want to stay on Oman. I mean, I get it. We have a story to tell here, but I'm curious. You being an artist, I mean, look, you're an exceptional artist. That was very clear to me the moment I heard you sing, the moment I heard you do your thing. And that doesn't just happen. I mean, yes, you might be born into you, but you know, you have to work on that. So when you were a little child in Oman, were you looked at as the weird little kid that sang and screamed and was obsessed with certain types of music, or was it, you know, did people praise you? What was the culture like around you as an artist?
So I sort of dived more into music when I came to the UK.
Gotcha.
I came to the UK when I was about 10. And it was sort of after that, I'd already been sort of learning the piano, a bit of guitar while I was in Oman. But it was when I moved here, that's when I sort of was getting really into music.
Gotcha.
And I was a really quiet kid. I would never sing. My parents never heard me sing. I was just, I think the main thing with me was it was all in my head. So I have this thing where I overanalyze music. I am constantly active listening. So I'm trying to break songs apart and just sort of recreate them in my head. And, what's the artist doing here? How are they creating that sound? What are they using for this? And so mainly it's all been in my head. It wasn't until I sort of joined this band where I was a guitarist before.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, I was in a couple bands playing guitar, but it wasn't actually until this band where I actually let people hear my vocals.
Gotcha.
Not to say that I've been doing my own vocals in my own time, driving my car, in my room, when I was in the house. But it was actually joining this band and sort of progressing from there.
Wow. So remind me to fire my research guy, because I should have known that, and I don't know why I didn't know that, but I think I get obsessed around one idea, right? And then that's what I kind of go after and pursue to prepare for these. So my apologies for not knowing that, but
that's fine.
But I love that you're this well-rounded creative. Being that you left Oman at certainly an old enough age. I imagine were you learning English in Oman, or were you just dropped into the culture and you had to figure it out?
So my mum's actually from Bristol.
Oh, wow.
Raised here in the UK.
Cool. Okay.
And my dad was born in Kenya.
Okay.
So my dad's side of the family, a few generations before, were from Oman. And when the country reopened under the new Sultan, that's when he called everyone back. So that's when my dad moved to Oman. My mum actually went to work out in Dubai and met my dad while she, during her time working there. And then she ended up living there for over 25 years. And that's when I was born, me and my sister. So my dad's third language is actually Arabic. His first is Swahili. Second is English.
Wow.
My mum's is obviously just English. So I grew up speaking English and sort of struggling with the Arabic and a little bit Swahili. Yeah.
Oh, no, that's great. Okay. Well, it put me in my place there. Well, then all that being said, then you're 10, you land in the UK, what were you listening to? Like the moment you arrived, were you kind of blown away by the options to listen to, or you know what I mean? Because I have no idea how old you are. I imagine you're in your early to mid 20s. I right? And so did you were like, oh my gosh, Radiohead, or you know what I mean? What were you about?
So mainly it was like during that time, it was very much I needed to sort of fit in. So I was listening to what all my friends were at school,
Gotcha.
which was basically everything. It was around the time of like Sony Ericsson's and Bluetooth, so we're all Bluetoothing each other's songs, and it could be absolutely anything from,
Wow.
I don't know, whatever was on the X Factor, which is a bit like American Idol, but the UK version, to just terrible music. It was a bad point of my life musically. But then a lot of my friends, I don't think many of my friends were into heavy music. It was mainly, I got introduced to a band called En Shikari through my cousin.
Okay.
And from there I went to a gig, even though I was well underage, to be going to this gig. And that's what just opened my eyes to the sort of heavy music. I'd obviously known about bands like sort of Green Day that I used to listen to, or Linkin Park. But as soon as I went to that one gig, that was it. That was like a watershed moment for me. And I think I was only about 12 at the time. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's now, see, now we're talking about culture shock. That's actually what blows me away as an older man, because I'm probably older than your father. And so it's a strange thing for me, right? My brain goes like, oh, he should say he was influenced by, say, 90s bands at the very latest. You know what I mean? Because as you talked about, oh gosh, what was the show called again in the UK with Simon and all that?
X Factor.
X Factor. Thank you. We have that sort of stupid America's Got Talent thing, which of course came from the X Factor and UK's Got Talent. And I think of a few of those that I've watched, and I'm like, it just, again, it seems something so recent that I couldn't possibly be talking to a fully formed man who is the singer of this band, and they've been around for a few years. So I'm just right now, I'm just mesmerized by the whole freaking thing. So please feel free to mock me at your earliest convenience. Yeah. Well, okay. So you're the center of attention when you're on stage, right? I mean, you are, let's face it. That's how it works when you're the front man. And how does that feel to you? Because I'm a drummer. I'm used to being protected by a drum set. I love being on stage, but I have that barrier between me and the audience. And I want them to look at me, but they're looking at me through that protective barrier. What's it like being exposed like that, and then singing those lyrics, right? That are, one, they're coming out of you because you want them to come out of you, and two, you're hoping that they'll receive them in a way that they were written, right?
Sure. It is something fairly surreal every time it happens. I'm so grateful to have the platform and the opportunity to do it every single time. I wish I could say it was sort of nerve-wracking, but I don't think I've ever been actually too nervous getting up on stage and sort of performing. But it's that whole, all I want to do is just give people an experience similar to what I had every time I went to a show. And okay, maybe they might not understand or hear what I'm saying or the lyrics that I'm singing to them, but as long as they can feel me and feel the energy and everything that I'm giving into it, that's all I sort of want.
Yeah.
Just so they get that vibe. Yeah.
That's really great what you just said. And it's funny, after all the years of doing this and all the people I've talked to over the years and all the people I've met, right? Whether it's you or Gojira or anybody, when you're dealing with a heavy type of music, and sometimes indiscernible lyrics, right? The lyrical content is hard to understand unless you've seen a lyric sheet, or, you're a freaking rocket scientist and you can understand everything. A lot of times it's really only about the rhythms you're hearing and the intent, right? And I love what you said, because I never, this sounds so pathetic, but I never considered that what draws me to heavy music is the emotion I get from it, not just the rhythmic or chunky or heaviness, right? The sort of aspect of it, but the actual emotion that's pouring out of a singer, I don't understand.
Sure, it is a sort of weird one when you dive into it, because this whole scene to me in heavy music is just, at the end of the day, how can some sounds that people are making standing on a stage make a crowd sort of run at each other, be so, I can't really say, well, I can't say aggressive and violent and throwing themselves off stages, even though they know no one's going to catch them and they'll hit the floor. How can music drive people to do this sort of thing?
Yeah.
And when you actually, well, when I dive into it and into the thought process of it all, it just seems like everyone's just in this sort of zen of just intense energy, and it's just a huge release. Right. And sometimes it's more of a gimmick band that can do this. Sometimes it's the emotional bands that do this. Sometimes it's just pure, violent, aggressive bands. It's just, however, yeah, it's just, to me, it's just quite a surreal thing. And it's just the whole energy and the vibe of it all, the intenseness is just, it's almost calming in a way. Yeah.
You were born after Freddie Mercury died. And so you didn't have that experience, but I'm sure you've seen him a million times on YouTube or whatever. Mm-hmm. And when you look back to Live Aid, you see him standing on stage commanding 100,000 people to follow his vocal cues. And there is something, it's a combination of things, I really think, Omar. I think we're drawn to the rhythms. And again, that sort of that guttural instinct, the tribal thing that happens inside of us, right? The heartbeat thing, the beat, the tempo, the bounce of the music. And then we're drawn to the emotion, like you mentioned, and these things. We don't even understand what it is about it, but we love the idea of being together collectively, right? It's like, who wants to go to see a movie by themselves? You want to talk to somebody about it afterwards. You have a shared experience. But the thing about music to me is there's also a leadership factor. Human beings love to be led. They love it. That's why there's political maniacs commanding thousands of people to kill thousands of people for no apparent reason. And
nature.
Yeah, and I don't want to, of course, equate your beautiful music with Putin, for example, but what I love about music and from what I've seen and heard of what you do, it seems to me that you have that X factor that pulls people to listen, to pay attention, and to follow your commands. And so I'm curious, when you're on stage, do you not just get a rush out of that, but do you kind of think, I'm going to mess with these people a little bit? Do you ever experiment with your audience?
I don't think so much with
You're so afraid to answer this question.
But no, I guess with my stage experience back in school, I was a drama student. So we'd always have plays almost every a few times a year. And that was all melodrama. So we had like a good group of us and we'd write our own plays and really get the crowd going. So I can relate to that with my drama days. That's when you sort of can mess with the crowd a bit and get them all involved, more of like pantomime. But honestly, with the music, it's just we're going to do our thing and we want to witness what the crowd are doing.
Right.
How they respond to the music and the energy. And it's just, it's something really nice to just sort of analyze how they're responding to your music.
Yeah.
You can sort of see it in the faces when you look out, and that's something that's really sort of heartwarming.
I mean, that's why we do it, right? We do it to receive something back. I mean, that can lead to a whole other thing, which is a big can of worms with artists is, what hole are you trying to fill as being a performer, right? Because, again, I don't want to talk about myself too much, but I will say this, that I was a performer because I was built to be a performer, but I also performed because I really wanted, I needed desperately, in fact, to receive the love of somebody who I didn't know to come up to me and say, dude, I don't know who you are, but holy crap. You know what I mean? Like, you're really good, or your band is really amazing, or I was floored. Do you find yourself embarrassingly at times receiving something from somebody and thinking, yeah, I needed that?
I think we all do. If we're being honest with ourselves, I think we all do. Because the amount of, they're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. They're just seeing the front end. But what they don't see is the years of the grind that goes into this. Like you say, you're a drummer, and if someone's coming up to you and saying, oh, good job, you've obviously been practicing your art for how many years, investing so much time, energy, money, making sacrifices to do what you love. So when people do come up to you and sort of let you know, it just makes it all worth it. However vain or selfish it might be, if you can even say that. But it is a good feeling.
Yeah. I know we could keep going down this road for a long time, so I'll move on. But with the band, you had told me that the band is sort of moving in a different direction. You called it the new direction of We Struck Gold. And I've listened to your new material. I've listened to some of your older material, and I'm not saying I don't hear changes. I mean, I think any band you hear evolution, it's you can't help but see it or hear it. But I don't necessarily know if I recognize maybe what you're going to tell me. So I'm curious, what about the direction of the band is changing, and what do you want us to know about the direction you're taking it?
I'll say the biggest change with the band is our mindset.
Wow,
this band is a whole story of setbacks, whether that's other people that were heavily involved with the band, or whether it's ourselves and our own mindsets. But it's just been setback after setback. And I guess the biggest story of We Struck Gold is sort of perseverance. We have stuck with it. We have a goal. We want to see this through, and we have just stuck by this, and we have just dealt with all the setbacks. And instead of complaining about it or just disbanding and sort of moving away from it, we're just taking everything as a lesson. And with this whole knowledge and all these mistakes that we've made in the past and bad decisions, we're now using each of those lessons to just propel ourselves forward. We have really good backing. We have a really good lineup now. Everyone has a shared mindset. We all know exactly what we want. We're all best friends and really tight as like a unit. So everything now is just full speed ahead.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest change with We Struck Gold now.
Wow. So this is really fascinating me, Omar. And the reason is I know something you don't. When I prepared for this interview, obviously I knew I was going to talk to you. I like your material. I've read nothing but good things about you personally. And of course, in hearing the band, I really like what I hear. This is so important for listeners to hear what you're saying, because mindset, gratitude, these are the timeless things every coach and every manager and everything will tell you. Those are the keys. How do you overcome a difficult situation in your life? You have to make an adjustment in your brain to say, I accept that this is something I didn't like, and I refuse to fall under its spell, and now I'm going in this direction. And that is so badass that you've shared this. But like I said, what you don't know is I wanted to ask you a question today about willpower. which is something I never ask people about. And I actually just wrote down the word willpower, don't forget to talk to Omar about willpower. And it's because, personal thing aside here, I am 55 years old, and in the last 10 years, I have gone through some pretty big up and down changes, and I'm starting to wonder, for real, if I'm bipolar. And not a joke. I'm not saying I am. I know I have some issues, but I'm so extreme. When I'm angry, I'm angry. When I'm happy, I'm happy, and there's just nothing in between. And that is terrifying for your loved ones. But a lot of it I attribute to my what I call momentary willpower, and that is I have willpower for a season. If I want something, I have all the willpower in the world, right? If I want to date that girl, if I want to get a record deal, if I want to lose weight, I have all the willpower I need. And yet, it's interesting that human nature says, well, we do things reactively. We don't do things in advance. And I was just kind of curious. I was going to ask you this question, but you've actually already explained, is that you guys are being proactive. You're saying, we're choosing to behave this way. We're choosing to align with James, for example, at Savior. We're choosing to do more so we can be the captains of our ship. Is that correct?
Sure. Yeah, completely. 100%. Because at the end of the day, you just have to reassess what you want. And being in a band is not easy. It's not an easy thing. There is so much you have to sacrifice, whether that's like weekends with people like your loved ones, whether it's work, and I guess it's with a lot of things, even certain friendships. And you just have to really hone in what you want from music, what you want from life. And fortunately, we all want the exact same thing, and that is just to propel this band as far as possible, travel, new experiences.
Yeah.
It's a bang around the house, sorry.
I didn't hear it on my end. What'd you hear? Did you hear a gunshot or something?
Oh no, it's my cats.
Oh. That's right. You're not in the Ukraine. We're good.
But no, yeah, back to willpower. It is all, you just have to figure out what you want and then figure out the best course of action to get to where you want.
Yeah.
Involve the people that you feel can really influence you in a positive way, and you can bounce off. And I guess it's just that shared energy and just everyone bouncing off each other to basically reach that destination. So
yeah. When you told me this, offline, we're taking this band in a new direction. I went and I listened to a lot of the older material, and here's what's interesting about that. Now that you're telling me this, I feel foolish for even considering that you were talking about musical direction. And yet, because you sort of prepared me for the potential of the new version of We Struck Gold, if you will, I listened to Dissolve as an example, right? And I get it. That's a different song. Everything's different. It's all relative. But that song seems to have a much more, there's a brooding in it. There's a post-rock sort of ethereal brooding and feeling to that song. And granted, that's that song. But then I listened to, Giving Up on Giving In, and it sounds fresh somehow. It sounds newer. It sounds more alive. And even though they both sound like the same band, it is interesting how that mindset has actually altered how I perceived the song, because I did hear it being fresher.
Sure. Well, honestly, I do feel our music is also going in a sort of new direction. We're all very heavily influenced by melodic hardcore. We each feel that sort of melodic hardcore is how can I say it? It's just getting a bit sort of diluted, and the grassroots melodic hardcore is just sort of disappearing. And with that, we, at the same time, try and just make our music a bit more accessible. So we want to appeal to the hardcore guys, kids, the melodic hardcore fans, the metalcore fans. We just want to sort of incorporate a bit of everything, because I don't think any of us specifically listen to sort of one genre. We listen to a load, so
yeah,
we don't really want to be confined by any genre in particular. So that is also a sort of stride we're taking, is just make the music a bit more accessible and open for a lot more people.
Yeah. I love that reaction, that response. It's funny because, that term, metalcore has been just over-explained, overused. Melodic hardcore, and I'm not knocking that term, but just all the cores, right? Slow core, gent core, metalcore, blah blah, deathcore. I mean, there's elements of all of those things in your music. There's evidence, and that's because you can't help but, I don't want to say emulate, but you can't help but play what's in your heart. But if I could just offer up one thought, it's not advice as much as it is just be you. Because what I hear, what I love about you and you guys is that, I mean, I'm literally talking to a guy who I've just met 30 minutes ago, who I deeply enjoy. Like, we could be buddies. We could hang out and have a beer. Right. And talk and share ideas and thoughts and challenge each other. And at the same token, be grateful for that other person's impact in our life, And so I don't know where I'm going with this outside of to say, just stay in that truth, because who you are is who you're supposed to be. And, your audience finds you. It becomes distilled and you become gold, right? I mean, in the beginning, you're rocks inside of a mountain and you chip them away and you eventually find these little nuggets. It's a perfect descriptive for what you do. It's awesome.
Of course, man. That's actually really wise advice. So thank you for that.
I'm fat and old. This is what we do.
It also goes down to, we don't want to sort of jump on hypes, and
sure,
we just want to be ourselves. And we want to, goes back to obviously not confining to any one genre in particular. It's just, we want to make music that sparks some emotion in ourselves.
Yeah.
And we want to hope that it sparks emotion in our listeners as well.
Yeah.
So that's what it all comes back down to for us, the emotion.
Yeah. So I want to ask you one more question. I mean, I'd love to stay on with you for hours, but
easily done.
You are. It's late at night for you. Have you seen the movie Silence of the Lambs?
Quite a while ago.
Okay. Well, so it's about people chasing after a serial killer. And the head of the investigating team says to the main character, people covet what they see. In other words, killers tend to stay close to their victims because they're watching them. They're excited by it. They're drawn to it. All that being said, this is not a serial killer question, but I think, artists, we're an odd lot. We have, I call it the artist dilemma. We're so locked up in ourselves. We're so unintentionally narcissistic. We can't help it. And we can't undo it. It's burned into our souls. So long story short is, I think musical artists are known for sharing their reality and their, and their perspective more than anybody else in the creative world. I mean, we speak about what we know. So how hard is it for you to separate yourself from your art? And are you drawn towards fame and celebrity and all of that goes with it? Or do you just want to be, the old school artist for the sake of art?
There's a tough question. I think there's, like you're saying with artists, there is that sort of natural narcissistic trait that, of course, we all want fame and we all want to make it, basically. Yeah. I think the main thing for me is I want to see the world through music. It's all well and good traveling, but it's just doing it through music and playing in front of different people, and sort of like a broken record with the emotion thing, and just I guess just sharing those experiences with our listeners around the world. That's the main thing that I want. Yeah. Creating experience, having experiences, meeting new people, like-minded people, musicians from all around the world. And I think that for me is the most important thing. I guess that kind of does go hand in hand with the fame kind of side, because you obviously need the fame to sort of get there. Yeah. But yeah, so I guess it is. I guess we all do want the fame side of things, but it's just doing something we love and being able to do that. I'm not going to say make money from doing that, because that's sort of a challenge in the sort of music. Yeah. But it's just to get the band sort of pushing the boundaries. That's what we want.
Okay, so now I actually have to ask you one tiny addendum to that question then before I let you go, which is okay, so if we agree that that's the direction, then what do you hope to have happen next? Like one little nugget to know you're on the right path.
I want our music or our live show to just make it out of the UK. Just get anywhere. Also, I believe that would be sort of a watershed moment for the past few years of everything that's been going on, to actually get abroad with no problems and do what we love. I think that would just be such a huge moment. So that's what I'm definitely looking forward to.